That is.
Goodness.
That's it. It's much bigger than I remember, you know.
It's absolutely nothing like I imagined.
We arrived at a little station, Fontenallato, about 2 miles down the road. And we were met by most of the occupants of the camp, all of them looking to see who they knew, who was in their regiment, so they would catch up with the latest gossip on what had been happening. And so it was a very warm welcome.
You talked about escaping. Tell me about the sort of escaping that you got involved in.
Well, I was recruited by some highly experienced escapers who'd been in other camps and made some very dramatic escapes indeed, to this particular tunnel. But I was newly arrived and I was merely slave labor, and delighted to be asked, delighted to the thought that one might get out. Well, I must say, being at the end of a 20-yard tunnel, if you suffer slightly from claustrophobia, it does give one, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. Very frightening, I hated it. No, I don't recognize it at all. I think it was a theatre they used it as while we were here. I should think that's it. I seem to remember it was rather square in this. However, my bed was about the middle of that wall, and that's it. And
Just like a public school dormitory.
no change at all, except I think the blankets might have been brighter.
What sort of things would you have done up here, and how long did you spend up here?
You spent a surprising amount of time, really. If you weren't taking exercise or reading outside in the sun, you were in here reading, writing, playing cards. Played a lot. I learnt bridge here. I learned a lot more bridge here. And I remember bidding 7 hearts when the armistice was announced, and making it.
This is General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Commander-in-Chief of the Allied Force. The Italian government has surrendered its armed forces unconditionally. As Allied Commander-in-Chief, I have granted a military armistice. Hostilities between the armed forces of the United Nations and those of Italy terminate at once.
We formed up down below there in companies, and the guards opened the normal gates into the playing field, across the playing field to where they'd cut a hole in the wire, down in that gap over there, and through into the maize fields, the vines beyond. We must have looked a very motley crew, carrying all our belongings in Red Cross boxes tied up with string, carrying our coats as we shambled in the most unmilitary formation away to freedom with tremendous exhilaration. Of course, everybody was like schoolboys. We were out. It was a wonderful start.
We all walked through the fields until we came about a mile or 2 miles away, I suppose, from the camp. We found a kind of wadi, a kind of gully. We got in there, and it was good cover. We thought we'd then sit there and see what it was going to do. We had no information. We were then very lost at that time.
Well, I think the mozzies, apparently, somebody said they bit huge mozzies, bit savage. But I don't remember it. I suppose the memory of pain fades.
The red mosquito bite, and now I've got malaria.
Got more water in it than I remember. And I thought it was more overgrown than the other side, you see, which was all maize and vines, and seemed terribly enclosed.
Yeah, so you can still see how it could be good cover, though, because nobody could see you at all from down below.
Safe as houses down in here. Oh, look, can you see right over there the 2 poplars, which are on the path to Casa Mori.
So that's where you went to from here?
That's where you went to, but I don't think we went to
It was
restaurant.
in the ditch that we were deciding what we were going to do. I was, I think, the second in command of a company in which Drew was in it. And I knew he was a gunner, and he was a nice-looking chap, and I seemed to be a good person to have with you, with one, so that when we were trying to make our plans for go away, I think I invited him to come with me.
Each evening on the road, as it were, was always a moment of tension, fear, wonder. What's going to happen? What's going to be turned away? And if we were turned away, what were you going to do? And if you were betrayed, what were you going to do? There was always, when we knocked at the door, that moment of uncertainty and fear of rejection.
Ah, Louisa, how nice to see you. How nice to see you again. Maria, how splendid. Me piccolo figlio.
Piacere.
Ecco, ho visto? E qui dove ha dormito lei, tanti anni fa.
See? See? I tell you, the old ladder wouldn't have taken both of us at once.
Looks pretty uncomfortable to me.
I think it would be now with these massive great rolls of straw. But then the hay was laid out flat. And you must remember, we were free, fed, and that was it.
Era altro prigioniera qui? Solo le due?
Sì, solo loro due. Gli altri erano nella Rovacchia. In quella torrente lì ce n'erano molti. Ci abbiamo portato da mangiare anche là.
Dici di questo del mio amico?
Sì, l'abbiamo vestito da donna, insomma. Ci abbiamo messo il seno, la borsetta, i sandali.
Siamo fortunati a trovare Casa Mori.
Sì, noi abbiamo fatto volentieri, ma però c'era della fiffa, perché se si venivano scoperti dai tedeschi era modo di caput.
Maria, mio padre era buono uomo, 43, buono? Ti piace?
Era un bel giovanotto.
Don't ask questions like that.
We stayed for a few days because we were trying to sort our ideas out and see what to do next. I think that we first of all thought that the Allies were advancing towards us, so the obvious thing would be to go towards them, particularly because we had a feeling that we would be all right in the mountains, because we'd be away from the Germans, who were in the valleys and the main roads.
Un momento, per tutti voglio dire una cosa. Dopo questo pranzo incredibile, magnifico, alla famiglia Mori, viva!
The Germans were, of course, using the main road, only 4 or 5 miles away from Fontenallato. When they arrived, nearly a week after the armistice, they immediately started a drive up the mountain where all the prisoners had gone to roost in some woods behind the rocks, and rounded up a lot of them straight away.
When we decided to move, I got dressed up as a woman. The first thing that would happen was I'd meet up with some cheeky woman, who would immediately look at me and roar with laughter, and then she would either get out some lipstick and rouge and stuff and do my face up, and we'd go on another mile or two, and we'd meet somebody else who would immediately roar with laughter and wipe the stuff off my face and either do me up differently.
Can you just tell me about the way you remembered all these places and how you wrote them down?
I didn't want to carry anything round with me while I was walking through Italy because I thought it would be dangerous for the people who had helped us. So I had this bit of a school atlas, and as soon as I crossed the lines, I think it was the next day or the day after, I wrote it down at once.
Drew was walking better than I was, partly because I was wearing women's sandals instead of proper shoes or boots. He would stop for a pause, for a rest, and let me catch up. And by the time I'd caught up, he was really eager to get on again.
Well, it had been a very long, hot, dusty, thirsty, tiring day. When we got to the valley at the bottom, and you can see how steep that is, and we climbed up here, and it made such an impact on us that I recorded it as the chin-strap climb, because I don't think I'd ever been so tired in my life. But anyway, we arrived here, and this splendid man took us in.
One of our strongest weapons was Drew's nice smile. Drew was obviously a nice chap. And then once we were in, I would sort of get in the corner by the fire and take my boots off, or shoes if I had only shoes on. And it'd be hard to get rid of us at that stage.
Oh, there you are. You can see it over there. It's that second ridge. That was the ridge that this priest here sent us to go to.
I can't answer what the next place was. I don't really remember. I know that Drew remembered.
What I discovered in going back is how treacherous memory is. I think I was going to be very careful about memory, because some of the things I remember very vividly are not true at all. Some of the things they remember are not true at all. Memory has got to be taken with a pinch of salt.
Why were you so trusting of the peasants?
I think it was their natural kindness, which had been made manifest already. We'd experienced their kindness before. And increasingly, one realized that high up in the hills, there was this innate natural goodness.
Yes, I find that a bit too easy an answer, really, because I think that they must also have been very mistrustful of people from the valley, and in a sense, you must have been people from the valley, weren't you?
No, I think we were English. Forgive me, it's lovely, how nice to see you.
After about a week of our walk, we went into a large, almost castle rather than a farm, a large building where the Piccoli Apostoli had one of their centres, and we met Don Zeno. We used to go leapfrogging down, he and his lorry and some of his orphans, and for about a week or just a bit more, we were moving with him, and they were very helpful. They gave us all sorts of things.
Allora, I sat in this chair. There we are, with the fork lì. Sì. It's incredible.
Do you get a sense of remembering it?
No, not really. But I do remember meeting Don Zeno for the first time, being impressed by this tremendous character. And it was here, I think, we were given the bicycles for the first time. There's curses that you had to push uphill, and then the tires came off going down, so we had to push them downhill as well.
Venivano dentro, generalmente loro venivano dentro da questa porta. Dai, il ponte dove...
Scendi lì e scendi ancora qui.
Sì.
È un pochino stanco.
Sì, molto stanco.
Molto stanco. Sì.
E poi è entrato qua.
Con mio amico vestito come donna.
Sì,
Adesso la donna! Si era gonfiato.
What did he do?
One of the things we wanted to do was to find people who would be helpful. And we weren't sure at first whether the priests would be helpful, but we found them to be civilized, intelligent, nice people who were very good to us.
You've done it. I'd like to have a full house when he comes in. That's a very good. You've got one.
When we met up with Don Zeno couldn't keep company with a woman, and therefore he had to produce me clothes to turn me back into a man.
Why did he stop that particular
I
camouflage?
think it caused a bit of problems. Don Zeno, a priest, being seen travelling with a rather flashy blonde.
Hanno lasciato una parte di quelle carte che io le avevo date e me le hanno lasciate lì dietro.
No, I missed that trick.
Sì.
E hanno dormito là in questa casa.
Sì, hanno dormito su casa.
Questo, adesso ci sta questo signore, sta in quella casa là.
Abbiamo dormito in sua casa?
Sì.
Sì.
Siete partiti la mattina che siete partiti, avevate la gonna da scozzesi?
No.
No, that's a little bit quick. We'd have to try that one again. By numbers.
Non è lui,
Sì, tenente È possibile entrare nella casa qui?
Sì, per basso. A Sant'Andrea.
Sant'Andrea a chi? A chi?
No, non è...
Non mi ricordo.
Ah, beh, Sant'Andrea in Centrea.
No, ma che? Sono venuti qui.
Ma
quella
piano,
è nella vallata del Segno.
Loro bisogna vedere se sono andati di là. Perché se hanno dormito lì, a cosa non possono aver dormito anche da Borghi.
Credo abbiamo passato a notte del Castel
del
Rio.
No, perché sono partiti da noi che saranno state le 10, così io ricordo, del mattino.
Sì.
Abbiamo accomodato le biciclette lì davanti e poi dopo sono partiti, ma noi ci dispiaceva che venissero di qua, perché avevamo paura che ci facessero prendere.
There's no doubt about it that the Germans would either shoot or penalize or beat up anybody who helped escape prisoners.
No.
That was well known everywhere, and we knew that, and they knew it.
The people whom I admired most, and I found quite extraordinary, were women. Because the men, if the worst came to worst, could take the hills. The women had to stay there. The women had their families, had children, and they had to stay. They would come away up into the hills where we were hiding, having to hide out from the village. They would come up with the food and go up and down twice a day with food. It was just astonishing what they did.
Are you still on the bicycles at this stage?
I think we'd thrown those things away. I learnt the Italian for damn bicycles yesterday. It's dannati biciclette. And we pushed and carried those things over half Italy, we thought. There you are. The buona Samaritano.
Bene.
Piccolo figlio?
Piccolo?
Piacere.
No, gigante buono questo qui.
Don Bellucci, è possibile mostrare a mio figlio la casa?
La casa è questa.
E questa?
La casa è questa, sì. E era qui anche allora, quando arrivò lei, sto vecchietto, era presente, perché è il sacrestano, il custode di tutta la casa. Era Don Zeno Saltini, era un ricercato, lui e i suoi ragazzi, al tempo dei tedeschi, perché lui aveva a sua volta ospitato partigiani, aveva protetto inglesi, aveva in qualche modo attirato l'ira dei tedeschi. Ecco. Per esempio qui a Civitella c'è stata una rappresaglia dove hanno ucciso 7 persone, fra cui dei ragazzi, come dicevo prima. Il parroco di allora, che è il parroco che ha accolto lei, Don Viroli, si era offerto in cambio, dice ammazzate me piuttosto che loro. Non hanno accettato lo scambio. E quindi sono fatti che fanno venire i brividi, ecco. Lo chiedo a tutti, anche ai giovani, quando parlo ai giovani, di non rinunciare alla libertà. L'abbiamo meritata per la fatica degli altri, per il sangue degli altri, per cui ritengo proprio così che ci siano delle figure anche eroiche, solo che non se ne è parlato perché sembrava che la resistenza fosse soltanto, diciamolo chiaro, una cosa politica soltanto di sinistra, ecco. Per intenderci, ecco. Invece sappiamo benissimo che alla resistenza hanno partecipato tutti, è stato un gesto democratico, ecco, quindi non ha un colore politico.
I think round about the end of our third week together, we reached a stage where I think that Drew was much more confident with his Italian. I didn't feel that I needed him at that stage. I was used to being on my own, and I don't think he felt that he needed me, so it seemed obvious for us to separate at that stage. In fact, we were tending to plan where we were going, and particularly in one case where we were going to Norcia Umbria, both Drew and I and Don Zeno were all planning to gravitate there 100 miles south of where we were. And in fact, we all three did go there. He went, and he was there one day before me or something.
I wouldn't have dreamt of coming into a town unless Don Zeno had said this was his next sort of major rendezvous. Now, that's the door, all right. That's the door to the bishop's palace. The secretary came to the door, and he turned me away. And all I could do was to leave a note for Douglas. And I confess, leave the place. I was very glad to do it, because there were lots of people. There were some Germans about. There were certainly Carabinieri and fascists, and it was a good place to leave. After Douglas, I remember looking at the map, the distances seemed so short then, endless talk and a short distance. And so when I left, I really did get moving for those first 2 or 3 days. I suppose one could say there was a great big question mark hanging over the door. One became increasingly aware that if you met anybody at the top of those hills working, he wasn't a fascist.
The peasant can perceive in the people he helps a way of distancing himself from the image that he has always had to suffer and to live with through history, the image of an inferior, dirty, smelly person who is not welcome in decent company, who is too coarse to be accepted, is suddenly turned on its head. Now he's sought after.
Why did you feel this urge to be walking this enormous distance and keep going and keep going and keep going?
I want to go back to my regiment. That's what I'd started the war with, and I thought I'd better get back to them very quickly. I suppose one had an idealistic sense of duty, and one ought to do it. Andiamo? Bene.
It was about 3 days while they mended your boots.
3 days, and she put a poultice on my knee, which I'd done no good at all to her, and had my boots mended for me with these remarkable sort of mountaineering cleats all around the edge.
E tedeschi a qui? Sì.
Erano qua.
Oh, qua, sì.
Vennero tutti da lassù. Vennero a finire qua. Però non potevo capire niente perché noi davanti ci eravamo messo tutto legname qua, tutto ricoperto. E lui stava dentro. Con la gamba malata.
Sì, sì.
Miniguccia degli comparsunto. E mettono la roba tutti quanti e il vicino lo mangiava.
Sì,
Ma
sì,
non era soltanto lui, ci erano parecchi.
So you're in Aragno, and basically your knee got better, and your boots are recobbled. What stage happened then?
Well, I reckon my kindly villagers are getting more and more frightened of being betrayed, and the fear was so obvious, so patent, that I decided to go.
I'm conscious of the fact that this trip is the first time that we have had unadulterated contact with each other, now getting on for 2 weeks, and it's going to be for 3.
Numbing, isn't it?
Well, it's not. It may be numbing, but it's bloody hard to tell you about yourself. I mean, I feel that I'm getting to know you in a way that, honestly, for 40 years I haven't. And do you feel you're getting to know me in a way that you haven't? So I wonder why you didn't tell me more earlier.
I find that almost impossible to explain. I think you have to go back, what are we now, 87, you have to go back to the 60s and think what the climate was then.
Yeah.
And certainly talking about the last war was not a very interesting subject to anybody. You know, it was all deadbeat stuff. I suppose you could say one was brought up not to talk about you.
Not to talk about me?
No, me.
Oh, you, yes. No, not oneself.
One talk about oneself.
Right.
Sassolino piccolino che sei qui, un sassolino nella scarpa hai che mi fa tanto male hai.
How did things change for you?
Well, when one was no longer being able to go to farms, because if they were there, they were terrified. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And it meant one was living outside. You couldn't get any food, so one was living on grapes. And I don't recommend it as a continuous diet. They're very good, but not for long. And of course, one was still meeting Italians, because the whole countryside was heaving with displaced people, with people from the farms, terrified. And obviously, the whole thing was, where were the Germans? Well, if we can see it. Here's the lake down there, and I was at the far end of it beyond those trees, and these two guardsmen walked down this lake, and I met them at the far end. We started off downhill through the woods, and the next thing we knew is we bumped into a couple of small German soldiers, armed, coming up the hill. They asked us the way, and I played the clod peasant and pointed them up the hill. They went, and we shot off down the hill. But obviously they weren't fooled for long, because the next thing that happened was they came back with a lot of others to help them to chase us like a partridge drive. So we jumped into this rocky stream bed and went down, continued to go down, till we came to a waterfall. And there was no way around it. It was over. And I was very frightened. So I turned onto my face, arm's length, slid and let go. I think it was the bravest thing I'd ever done in my life.
I'm not entirely sure why I'm so pathological about this damn waterfall, but somehow I want to find it. All right, you win. Actually, that's it. Look, I mean, that's a real...
well, that's the proper stuff, but...
Dry as a bone
it's bone dry.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
but
quite keen...
We have to go right down to the bottom and up the other side.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to follow up here, actually. I want to just...
Just how far are you suggesting we hike?
Come on, Father, this isn't a search of history.
I know, but I don't want in search of heart attack. There's got to be vines, ordered vines.
Yeah, but this could easily be that. I mean, this could easily be... Look, there's a field there.
Could be.
You see, there's a field all over the place. I had it in my head going up round there, and it's now shooting off in this direction.
No, it's got to go
round got to go back.
There,
yeah.
because
there's a hill there.
That's a bank there.
I suppose this is possible still.
Well, I'm getting less and less enthusiastic because it was so much narrower, and the track was about 20 feet above the stream.
And this is hellish stuff. I mean, if it was as thick as this, you'd have never got through. I mean, there were tracks.
Well, they wouldn't have found you anyway. I mean,
no.
Well, not the numbers of people.
I think probably this is a bit of a dead end, really, sadly.
I'd love it to be. Only consolation is all downhill back to the car.
Yeah, I suppose.
Back to the drawing board, isn't that the cry?
Back to the drawing board, yes. I suppose in the end, it doesn't matter. It's just that it was in your story. It came across as such a dramatic incident.
Yes, yes.
It would have been really nice to have...
found it, yes.
Found it.
Exactly. But this is difficult to explain. It's these series of definite impressions and then long blanks, and I simply don't remember. Obviously, it was just walking, tired, walking, repetition. Yeah. And then every now and then, the whole sort of stage is lit again, and you've got this scene. We arrived at Fontenallato in the dusk. It seemed to me the place was on fire, there was smoke everywhere. The whole atmosphere was panic, tedeschi. And the village was streaming out with their animals, everything they had and could carry was coming up here.
Il momento in cui bruciarono Frosinone veramente io non me lo ricordo, però so che c'erano tedeschi, italiani, si fuggiva, si scappava, bombardavano, quindi era un fuggi-fuggi. Poi ad un certo momento non c'era più nessuno nel paese.
That's where we camped.
It's an amazing place. You can see it.
Well, it's absolutely hidden.
Yeah.
From anywhere else from down below, unless you actually had a helicopter or an aeroplane over the top. You couldn't see a thing from anywhere else. Colombina, bless her heart, made the fire to feed us.
Yes.
And I'm absolutely certain that first night we had the pig was, who'd had the heart attack as it came over the top, was butchered quickly. And we were handed bits and we toasted them over the fire.
Le cannonate, le bombe, e stavano tutti impauriti e messi così. E arrivavano questi poveretti inglesi, fame, poveretti, e tutti quanti. Chi meglio li poteva accogliere? Quel pochino che tenevamo, pure noi davamo a loro.
It was totally unexpected, of course, when this huge congregation from that tiny church surged forward and seemed to want to touch me and tell me their stories. It was very, very moving indeed. I am able to stand here today because 44 years ago, some of you, or your relations, fed me, hid me, and helped me to escape.
Il generale ha detto che oggi è qui presente, è vivo, perché voi e i vostri parenti l'avete aiutato e l'avete ospitato durante la guerra.
Okay. And on behalf of the many thousands who also were helped, many, many thanks indeed.
Direi che non si possa dire altro se non quello di essere contenti e felici di aver partecipato involontariamente a tutta questa bellissima storia, bellissime cose.
Visioni che ancora adesso spaventose proprio, che ci fanno raccapricciare, però il gesto del generale ci commuove fino alle lacrime.
You could see the battle for Boiano by the Canadian Brigade taking place. You could see the shelling, the bombing, the tanks firing, and it was obvious by probably dusk that the Germans had pulled back. And so this was our chance. It was fascinating to go back to Italy again after 43 years. And the people in 4 places recognized me unbidden after 43 years, which is quite an achievement, bald, old and deaf and everything else. They still recognized me. I was very flattered and touched. It was all great fun. I was so enjoying it, doing it. On occasion, my expectations were more than met, and it was sheer pleasure. And the distance of it, it was a very long way to walk. When I look at it now, I wonder that I can walk across a room by myself unaided.